Wow, that transition was fast. Hey everybody, it's John Iadarola. This is the Damage Report, and today is probably Friday because Brett Erlich joins us. Brett, are you ready for the end of the week, which presumably is coming up right now?
John, so let me clarify a few things. It's Thursday today. It's the Friday of weekdays.
It's true. I never thought about it that way. Yes, so we had to move some stuff and change some stuff. So we've got Brett here on a Thursday, and then I guess we're not having you for a while. Do we have you next week?
You have me next week. Basically, there's going to be some huge announcements that have nothing to do with the advancement of my career, but rather the advancements of other people, and that will take me off the wall, so to speak, so that I can deal the inner workings of Castle Black.
I was thinking, I thought that was a Handmaid's Tale reference rather than a Game of Thrones reference, and being on the wall is a lot darker in this one than that. Anyway.
Either way, John, my metaphor does not hold. It's not a good one. But essentially, I have a bunch of other
for a bit.
Similar to the reason I'm not here Friday, I'm doing things behind the scenes at TYT that will require my vigilance. And so you'll probably see more of other people.
Yes, we don't know
whose names might be vegan. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
You never know. So that's gonna be a change. This is a change because we're very lucky to have Brett today, but we are still gonna have garbage people tomorrow. And Yasmin is gonna be joining us once again, which means for the first time she's gonna be throwing something in the trash. I'm very excited to see how she approaches this. You never know. There's only been a few people that have ever done a garbage people. Brett has done 98% of them.
Yeah, and it's almost weird when someone else does it. Like maybe when Brett does Thursdays, we should do it on Thursdays. I'm just brainstorming here, but that's just because I'm severely competitive and territorial, and it's the worst thing about me. And I try to get over it. Speaking of which, just because I'm not on Friday, it is still my territory to announce the things that will be happening on Friday. So we have a very amazing common room. It's an all onesie common room. So wearing onesies, friends, will be myself, Brooke Marks, Adiana Vega, and Jordan Ewell.
Oh my, what onesie is Jordan Ewell gonna have?
We don't know. Brooke has ordered 4 onesies that are in the place we put things when we can't be effed to bring the whole thing into the house. It's just right by the door. I don't know what's in there. I might have to choose them on the stream when we begin, and so that I can fully suit up. But check that out, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, Friday, common room at twitch.tv/TYT. Awesome. Free to everybody.
That's awesome. Really fast though, we do have to do a fact check. I'm reading in the Twitch chat from Brooke Marks says, that's not the worst thing about you. And she would know. So anyway, that sounds like fun. We've got a lot of news for you. We are not going to be doing garbage people today, but we are going to be doing Meanwhile In. We've got some news from around the world, so that should be fun. And as we go through this, please, first of all, hit the like button, share the stream. And if you want to send us messages, you can do that and we'll read them as we go. But that's, I don't know what is going on. Anyway.
Oscar worthy sulk. I was actively sulking. The worst part, I was thinking about me as an actor the whole time. It was so bad.
Okay, well, you know what? That was good. Thank you for doing that. We got a lot that we're gonna get to though. Some fun news, some horrible news. It's a damage report, everybody. Hold on to your butts and let's launch into this first topic. For what feels like weeks now, we have been pushing for the US government, in particular Joe Biden, to do what he can to help fight back against the vaccine apartheid that we've been seeing internationally. Pushing him to do what he said he would do, which is support the annihilation of the patents protecting the current vaccines that are being used to make them available to be produced domestically in countries around the world. Well, yesterday after our show, he did. Joe Biden did actually do that. That thing that he said he was going to do, that moral thing, that pragmatic thing, that diplomatic thing, he did it. So let's just stop for a second, and that's good. It's not done. He unilaterally, by saying that he supports it, that's not the end of it. But it is a very important step. I have to assume that if the US had stood sort of resolutely against changing the patents, that would be it, Brett, right? Like there'd be no chance.
So we're in this weird realignment time where you're gonna have to, as a human being in America, get used to this weird feeling. And it's something that TYT viewers are used to, which is a good thing. So you get it, which is sometimes people who are extremely infuriating do things that aren't. And sometimes the media will say these two sides are doing this one thing. Who's the good guy? And these are separate stories from this one, but frequently they'll both be the bad guy. And so you'll find very infuriating people that say things that you agree with, and that's okay. You can agree with something that they do. And this was one of those times, like Biden, wildly infuriating. He gets more infuriating when he actually does stuff like this, and then won't do things that are even bigger no-brainers. Sure. That's what's very frustrating about it. But I'll take it.
It's like, it's like, so you can do this. Like with Trump, nothing was ever gonna happen. So you never had to, like you didn't need nuance issue by issue because he was just going to come up with whatever the worst position was on literally everything. So Joe Biden does this and it's like, well then why don't you do the other stuff, buddy? But anyway, the battle continues. We will continue to push him. But we're giving him credit at least for the current rhetorical position of the US government. The US looking better than some other countries, which we'll get to. But I want to turn to another aspect of this. Joe Biden's announcement yesterday that he's going to support getting rid of the protections for vaccine patents was applauded, I think rightfully so, by a number of different people, including Bernie Sanders, who says, I applaud the Biden administration for taking this bold step to speed up the production and availability of coronavirus vaccines. I also recognize the dedicated work done by activists around the world to put this issue on the global agenda. We are all in this together. Sort of echoing the sentiment that I shared on the Young Turks with Anna Kasparian yesterday, saying that in a very short period of time, Biden has staked out the wrong position on issues like not raising the refugee cap, continuing border wall construction, potentially reneging on his promise to support this change to patents. People spoke out on all those topics, and he has moved to the right position on all of those topics, at least insofar as we know right now. So that is good. It is a demonstration that having Biden rather than Trump was a good thing. We said, how many times did we say, choose your opponent? Who do you want to fight for the next 4 years? And I said at least, and I'm assuming most of you probably agree, Biden, because he can at least be fought. But it's also a representation that, or a reminder that we do need to put pressure. He wasn't going to reach all of these positions without it. And so that is good. You also have people like the Director General of WHO saying this is a monumental moment in the fight against COVID-19. The commitment by Biden and Ambassador Katherine, the US Trade Representative, to support the waiver of IP protections on vaccines is a powerful example of American leadership to address global health challenges. I commend the US on its historic decision for vaccine equity and prioritizing the well-being of all people everywhere at a critical time. Now let's all move together swiftly in solidarity, building on the ingenuity and commitment of scientists who produce life-saving COVID-19 vaccines. So those are the people who are happy, Brett. There are people who are not, which we'll turn to in a few, but what are your thoughts?
Right, we'll talk about all that because I have very similar. I have these thoughts about that where it's like, I know I'm a bad person, and I know what the right thing to do is, even though I can't really sort it through. Anyways, but with this, when we win battles like you're talking about with Biden, one thing that we need to really message well around is that there's this instinct to be like, well, we gave you that one, we're gonna give them the other one. And that only works if you're in this bargaining position with people and the end result of you bargaining would get you anything tangibly good. What we have going for us is like, no, this list of demands we have, from which you picked something, in this case, vaccination, opening the restrictions on IP surrounding patents. Everything on that list is something that most Americans agree with. So rather than give us this thing this time and them something else the other time, I guarantee you, with the popularity of all the things on our list, if you pick all of them, that's a really good shopping list full of really healthy items that also taste good. Like you have this instinct to be like, it tastes good, so it's not healthy. But But just remember that all these things, the reason that they're populist and economically so, as opposed to nationalist and populist, is because most Americans agree they're good things, and they will like you more if they get them.
Yeah, there should be a segment. Most Americans agree.
Freaking pushing. I just got to make it.
That.
I don't know where it's going to
go. Really fast, I encouraged Anna to look back to bringing back the classic TYT segment, the Clown of the Day. I think that'd be fun. You guys should do that again if you can figure out the template. But anyway, equally important to the Clown of the Day is who's against us. Let's turn to that now. So where does the world stand on the fight over vaccine patents? Well, we have this visualization of the current stated position of different world governments. And you can see there now, the US is green, yay. And then most of the world that is still very much struggling with the pandemic is green, has been green for some time, calling for this. You can see there both South Africa and India, they've been original sponsors of this effort at the WTO. But there are a lot of countries that are still red, still against this, or are undecided, including both Mexico and Canada. So interestingly, we had some recent developments on this, including French President Emmanuel Macron. He came out today saying he is supportive of a temporary patent waiver, telling reporters he's, quote, very much in favor of opening up intellectual property, which is good. But I also saw a statement right before we went live from I don't know which representative of the German government it was, saying that they're not going to support that as of right now. Canada, as of right now, is not supporting it, and that's really something. People for Bernie, a great Twitter account, pointed out, imagine being worse than the US government on a global public health issue. That's Canada right now, and it is, yeah. And so that's a lot of red countries, including, by the way, Brazil, who is just, they're doing really bad. Like, people aren't focusing on it too much because of how bad things have gotten in India over the past few weeks, but Brazil is still being decimated by this pandemic. And as of right now, they're standing with these other countries that have got much higher rates of vaccination to stop the change from being made.
Yeah, I agree. This is, when it comes down to whether we should peel back these patent waivers or not, there's a very easy way to sort through all those things and take into account the reason that companies who have invested money into those vaccines typically have this argument, which I agree with. It's like, if I put my money into developing something, then I should own it. But that only holds if you put all the money in. If you got money from governments to develop that patent, then the people of those countries should own some kind of version of it. That's one thing. And so with certain, if a company who developed a vaccine did so in a vacuum, fine, I'm fine with that. The other things that are they're in terms of a monopoly, yes, there are multiple companies that have this vaccine. So that would create some kind of competition with them. But the one thing that we really need to focus on is the reason that these countries are against having the IP patent stuff waived is because they're afraid of the ripple effects in other industries. But those countries that do that already admit that medical industries are different. That's why they have universal health.
Special case and a special time.
Yeah, exactly. So there are many reasons where you're like, well, we can write into the law in this case at this time, that's fine. But for people to say, no, this is exactly like a new shoe technology, that's psychotic. It's not like a new shoe technology. There's all kinds of shoes and all kinds of places you can buy shoes. And no matter how much you can pump it, that's still a shoe. This is a life-saving thing that countries invested in to save their people, yes, but it seems like if you're throwing 1 billion people at a contagious disease, and that disease mutates, you're just asking for trouble to come back to your backyard because you didn't take the extra steps now, after you already bought it, after these companies made a lot of money by having it get bought. We also we made it faster. We expedited the process of innovating these vaccines and it worked. People have them and they work. We should probably, expedite the pace with which we peel back the patent on it, if only temporarily during the crisis, after they've already made a grip of cash.
So much money, and will continue to make so much money. I mean, you could figure out, like, what were we calling for? Like 2 or 3 months ago was allow them to manufacture your vaccine and you get a certain cut, or the government gives you some money or whatever. Like, you can figure something out that will continue to give you mountains of cash. You can do that. But the mountains of cash are what they're worried about. So we're gonna turn to that in just a sec. I will just quickly say there's people in the chat that are like, Brett showing his and my age with the reference to no matter how much you pump it with the shoe. And then I had a moment where I could not remember. There was an image of somebody over pumping a shoe and it blowing up in their face, and I could not remember what it was. And then I had a nice little memory of Austin Powers. Well, the times we had. Anyway, with that, let's turn back to again.
D Brown pumping up his shoes before his, dunk contest situation. You know that sports reference, right, John?
All of them. I know all the sports references. Anyway, let's turn back to things I know as many references of, and that is stocks. But anyway, the announcement yesterday by the Biden administration that they would be putting pressure on the WTO and other governments potentially to change vaccine patents was not received well by some world governments. Also not super received well by the stock market, because Pfizer and Moderna had their shares plummet after the announcement, at least briefly. Like, you never know, like, yeah, this is going to happen. And there are always 100 times as many headlines when something causes stocks to plummet than when they gradually creep back up to where they were in a day or a week or a month or whatever. I don't know for sure that that's gonna happen. Please do not take any financial advice from me, but it is possible. That said, they've made a lot of money, so some were not overly concerned about this temporary drop, including Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who retweeted that chart that we showed you, saying, let's do insulin next. And I know that we're I think rightfully focused on the vaccine. So many lives are on the line. We've talked about that ad nauseum. But that said, the representative does bring up a great point, something that we occasionally return to, but so far under the Biden administration, we haven't really done anything to change the situation. That something as simple as insulin, this long established, long produced medicine, costs an insane amount here, not in most parts of the world. And I wanna show you a bit of video of congressional testimony involving Representative Ocasio-Cortez from some time ago, where she tried to drive this message home.
Ms. Skipper, you said that with your insurance, your insulin is $1,000 a month, is that correct?
Yes.
When insulin was first developed, the patent was sold. Do you understand? Do you know this story?
Yeah, for $1.
For $1, right?
Yeah.
That's how much the patent for all insulin was sold for. Do you know the reason why it's $1,000 with insurance for you?
No.
Neither do I.
I have no idea.
And frankly, I don't think corporations understand. Well, I don't think corporations will give us a reason why. There is no reason for a drug as simple as insulin, which costs $21 in Canada for a 10 milliliter bottle, to cost the equivalent of a mortgage payment or sometimes 2 mortgage payments. And with that, I yield. Thank you.
It's a great point. I mean, she rightfully corrected herself that they don't understand why it costs that much. Obviously, they understand it costs that much because they priced it that much, because they're allowed to price it that much, because that's the system we have set up. It clearly doesn't have to. It's not that Canada has some magical technology that makes it 20 times cheaper to produce. That's the system we have, Brett.
Right. Yes, it is. So let's go back to the beginning where you talk about the stock price for Moderna and whatnot. You're looking at Pfizer and yeah, those dipped at a time in the day. So that is a zoom in of a zoom in of a zoom in. That's talking about, yes, within hours. If you look at the overall behavior of that stock for the last year, what happened was Pfizer, for example, announced that they had a vaccine. When they announced it had a vaccine, it went from $36 to $44 or something like that. So it went way up. But it hasn't stayed that way up the whole time. The speculative nature of the stock market, it dipped back down to essentially a little higher than it was a year before that. So it's not like it was riding the same high the entire time since it announced this vaccine. And that goes to kind of prove the point you're saying, where it does rebound, and it will rebound, because especially in America, companies like Pfizer are doing the same thing with that vaccine that they are with insulin. Because the way that typically it works, maybe not with that vaccine specifically, the way it typically works is that health insurance companies are charged a giant amount, a certain amount by the drug companies that they can get away with. It's insulated from like the normal marketplace of capitalism, where I could say, here's money and you give me money for that thing. Someone else is negotiating those prices, and then they're socializing the costs. Yes, there is a mandate that we all essentially have, that your company or your state pay for your health insurance, but everyone's paying a little into that. So it's all this weird thing where, and then add to it, it's unlike any other good where you will pay anything to stay alive. So yes, there's some, at the margins, there's some kind of competition in there, but not really, because it's it's one of those goods that you will always pay everything you have not to die. That's different from whether you will buy lunch today from Taco Bell or McDonald's.
Yeah, specifically. Yeah, it's so filtered and so artificial and so manipulated that it deserves to be questioned. And so I'm glad that there are people that are talking about it. Obviously, we're focused on this one pandemic, this one issue, but let's look more broadly at the system as well. Now that said, we're gonna see what's going on with the audience before we jump into our next topic, which involves Mitch McConnell and Joe Manchin, two of my favorite people around the world. But first of all, Jennifer Canterbury, thank you for becoming a tier 1 member over at YouTube. Enjoy the emojis, including the new DJ lunchbox and the Huasilambre emojis. Lazy Peon says, I'm ashamed of my country. Norway's on the wrong side of vaccine waiver, and the US and China's on the right side. WTF, save us from the madness. We're trying. We have very, very limited influence over the US government. I don't believe we have much at all over the Norwegian government, but we're gonna try.
No, I'm gonna stop buying Nokia phones immediately.
No more Nokia phones, no more salted fish, no more salty licorice. Just, I hate to do it to you, Norway.
John's 3 favorite things.
They are not. Anyway, Jasonic, welcome to tier 2 YouTube membership, thus getting access to our top 10 list that Francesca and I do every Monday. This week it was the top 10 things we don't want our tax money to go towards anymore. Always a productive conversation, but it was fun, and I think it tells a lot about our priorities. Jennifer McIntosh says, my edibles must be kicking in, bread on a Thursday. Exactly. Amy says, Brett, I have enough trouble keeping track of my days. Stop confusing me. Yeah, people are very angry at Brett. Hashtag Brett is canceled because of a temporal paradox party. Jason P says, AKA Glory Days Dragon, hooray. An early appearance by Brett is exactly what I needed during this crappy week. Thank you both for what you do. Thank you. Robin Cogburn subscribed at tier 1, thank you. Matthew Veslage did as well, and call sign Starbuck Viper Dragon, who we talked to in the pre-show today, became a tier 3 member, getting access to our monthly Q&As. Thank you for that. Over on Twitch, tell me what to put, gifted a tier 1 sub. Thank you for that. Shadow Devil gifted 5. Patricia Swan became a subscriber for the 2nd month. Hazamel did for the 7th month. Most Def Steph for the 4th month says lots of appreciation for the TYT crew and love for the community. I've officially claimed Q Continuum Dragon over on Discord because Trek Q is original Q and we need to reclaim it. We do, we need to wage that battle. And thank you to Whiskey Eye for making your Twitch sub baby get brought into the world with 9 months of subscribership. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much to all of you. We'll be reading more of your comments as we proceed, but with that, why don't we jump back into the news? Mitch McConnell's the worst and he's never gonna change, and he wants to make sure that you know that. It's nice and honest of him. So he announced recently, well, he was asked a different topic. He was asked about the whole Liz Cheney and the Lee Stefanik thing, and he decided to remind you with that opportunity of how bad he is. So he said his attention isn't on all that stuff. It's on stopping Biden. Quote, 100% of my focus is on stopping this new administration. So for months now, he's been saying, where's the unity? Where's the bipartisanship? And now literally the only thing I care about is making sure that Joe Biden doesn't accomplish anything, which is a strong signal to Joe Biden that he should not listen to Mitch McConnell anymore, but also potentially some of the other Democratic senators. Sorry, said Republican, weird slip. Democratic senators that believe that bipartisanship is a possibility. So Joe Manchin's a great example of that. He was recently on with Chris Cuomo, who brought up this McConnell comment, and here is how Manchin responded.
It will work.
But they don't want it to work. He just told you, I'm stopping the administration. He just said it to you,
You don't know. You don't.
He just said it.
That was one person.
He's the head.
That's one person.
He's the leader.
He's not controlling all of that. I can assure you, we would not be having the discussions. There wouldn't be an offer on the table of $500 or $600 billion of infrastructure. A starting point, which I think is a good starting point. Let's look at what we've done. We've got to hold ourselves accountable and responsible.
So we kept that for as long as we did. So you get Chris Cuomo like wiping the sweat off his head in frustration at Joe Manchin's inability or unwillingness to admit what is being screamed into his face by the other side. What do you think, Brett?
It's so infuriating. My favorite thing, he's like, listen, Mitch McConnell's not in charge. I am. I am Joe Manchin. I am putting forward this. But the truth is, let's talk politics, buddy. Let's talk votes. You're either talking about bipartisanship to create a filibuster-proof vote in the Senate. So you're at 50-50 right now. Yes, Mitch McConnell is the leader, and no, he is not every voter, but he has a really great track record for only releasing enough of his minions from his stable of McConnell votes to still win the vote, idiot. That's been his skill forever. They're called hall passes. It's not a new thing in politics. He's like, yes, we can only let one person go. And the three of you think that this is a politically beneficial thing for you to vote with the other side on, but I'm only letting one of you vote with them. So what are you gonna give me in exchange? And it always has and will work out like that, you moron. And let's put it this way, man, if it's 50-50 and you need to get to 60, he's not gonna, and he never has ever let 10 senators leave, especially on something that if it passes will be as big of an undeniable win in Biden's category as an infrastructure bill. Where's Biden today or tomorrow? I forget. He's in Louisiana, standing in front of a bridge saying that was supposed to be replaced 20 years ago.
Jesus.
That's what he's doing. And he's going to deep red states. You know what's curious? He's not going to West Virginia.
Yeah. Which is where he needs to.
And that's it. Biden, clear it up for me, man. The truth is the voters are with us. The people are with us. Every poll says
Republican voters.
That's what I mean. Everybody in America is like, I do want high speed. I do want high speed internet. I want new roads. I want new bridges. And I need it because America's infrastructure is crumbling in every respect across the board. And we're getting beaten by the countries that those voters rightfully say we should be better than.
Yeah. Exactly.
And they'd be with you, but instead, why is he staying away from West Virginia? Later today, check it out. I still have to write it, but we're doing a petition at tyt.com/petition. So watch during the Young Turks today. Petition Biden to, after he's done in Louisiana, head northeast a bit and park his ass in West Virginia. And go stand in front of closed down factories that can't, live up to the demands that the infrastructure is asked to fulfill, and then all the different places that are suffering because there's no money going into those states, and say the only person between you and investment that will make this state great is Joe stinking Biden. Hell, Jim Justice, who defected from the Democratic Party 9 months after he was elected. The Republican governor is outflanking this guy. What's his problem?
Yeah, no, he should buy a cabin, the Western White House, and just hang out there and do press conferences every day. I mean, of course, it's not just Joe Manchin, but Joe Manchin, it's everything that he says is just so. He can't believe it. He cannot actually believe the things that he's saying. Mitch McConnell is just one man. He's literally their leader. And by the way, why are we having conversations that are like framed as hypothetical? He said under Obama, the only thing I care is that Obama fails. And he stopped as much of what Obama tried to do as possible. Almost everything. He stopped him from getting a Supreme Court justice. And now he's saying, I'm gonna do it again. And Manchin's saying, no, man. No, he would never do that twice. No, he would. He very much would. By the way, if Joe Manchin dropped dead today, and so it was 49-50 or whatever. Like I've read articles that just state it as fact and just accept it. Like it's not even a disputed thing. No, there would be no, like, if we needed a new justice, there would be no justice. Not the last year of the presidency, there just would not be. They would not confirm a justice ever. He thinks because some of them voted for the hate crimes bill, that they're gonna vote for infrastructure or a healthcare bill or an immigration bill or for HR 1. No, that is not gonna happen, you stupid big dumb idiot.
But I want to look at the polling and things that are have as much bipartisan support among voters as the hate crime bill are treated as wildly partisan issues. That's what's so frustrating. And so Biden needs to go around and say, I am doing bipartisan stuff with the voters. I'm doing things. I'm looking at this poll right here. Republicans want this. I don't know what's going on with their elected representatives. And you know who else does stuff like that and has been successful at it? Trump. That's his political move, is to recognize that people do not like these politicians. They're wildly unpopular. And if and they're gonna agree with you if you say, like, I just don't understand why these folks are against what you are saying when you're asked what you want.
Yeah. Okay, I want to show a couple more bits of video from this. Is Mitch McConnell playing the Democrats, specifically the Democrats that like to talk about bipartisanship? Well, Joe Manchin was asked about this. Let's look.
Do you think that your party is being set up to be fooled again by Mitch McConnell?
I don't think so. I really don't. First of all, Chris, it's always good to be with you. And next of all, I don't. And I'll give you a few examples. The hate crimes bill we just passed 2 weeks ago, 94-1.
You have 70% of the Republican Party saying that Trump won, that Biden didn't win. You really think that that's the kind of setup where they'll work with you?
Well, that's a horrible situation. And basically the extremes on both sides. There's people on both sides saying that we have 20% on each side or 30% on each side. That's extreme. Okay, with that being said, you've got to find the middle.
Okay, so he just did the both sides thing, and he couldn't even come up with anything. So he was told 70% of Republicans think that Trump won the election. He's like, well, yeah, there's 20 to 30% on all sides that are bad in some way. No, we're saying the vast majority of Republican voters think that the election was stolen and supported the Republicans stealing it back. Remember the attack on the Capitol, Joe Manchin? Did you forget about that? And his response was, yeah, but there's libs too, I guess. No, they are playing you.
But the follow-up question is, so what's your example of the crazy thing that people on the left believe? What is it? You say he would probably say that healthcare is a right. Probably, right. He thinks that's radical. But ask everyone about that. Everyone about that, what they think about Medicare for all. Well, 70% of people believe that.
Yep.
And that's an average of polls. So what is it? So Joe Manchin actually in that moment was calling 70% of America radical. That sounds like he's the one who's out of touch. That makes him a radical.
I agree. Let's go to this last video and then we'll give our closing thoughts.
All due respect to your party, I don't think you guys play power politics as well as the other side. And I think that if you were to get rid of the filibuster, McConnell would use it against you guys when he gets back in power, and it's only a matter of time, in a way that you never even thought of using it. So I hear you on that.
Well, he could use it already.
But I'm just saying, Senator, right now you have infrastructure, you have needs for families, you have a lot of gross deficits that you're dealing with. There's a chance that you get none of it passed. Forget about, background checks or anything like that.
Let's see what we've done already, Chris.
Yes, sir.
Look what we've done. $1.9 trillion. Look what we did last year in all bipartisan way. Look what we've done this year. We didn't do it with a bipartisan way, but we did it because it needed to be done with the pandemic that we had. We did it at $1.9 trillion.
But you didn't do it bipartisan.
No, we had a process of bipartisanship to a certain extent.
But then there were no votes.
There would have been more, but there wasn't. But there was one. Well, we didn't try. We had some votes as far as in the.
But they went through the reconciliation process, Senator. As you know, you went through reconciliation because they weren't going to work with you on it. McConnell had it locked down.
But then basically, then we did the hate crimes bill, and we went through a process where we had amendments on the floor.
He's got absolutely nothing. Like look at what we did. Look at the stuff that they passed under Trump. And then we spend months trying to do it here, and then not a single one will vote for it. And he said, well, we didn't try. It will never be enough. No amount of process or attempting to bridge the divide, no like concessions, nothing will be enough. It will always be, we didn't try hard enough, which is why in a past video we showed, he referenced the insulting infrastructure offer of like $500 billion. Like, that's why we got this deal. That, by the way, they won't vote for that either. They're gonna say 500. It's the ACA debate all over again. They're gonna throw out a bunch of BS things that supposedly they support that will be taken up by the Democrats. Then the bill will go forward and they won't vote for it anyway. That's what's gonna happen. He was just fumbling and bumbling. He can't even make the case, which tells me that he doesn't really believe it. That he doesn't fundamentally believe that there's great opportunities for bipartisanship. If he keeps going back to the hate crime bill, as if that's infrastructure, or as if that's something to do with like the medical, like something like that the Republicans would literally never support. He knows that, and continuing month after month after month into the Biden administration, he is just wasting time that we don't have time to waste. And it's specifically pointed out to him there by Chris Cuomo about the likelihood that nothing gets done. He knows the political implications of that, what would happen if the Democrats don't deliver, and he has not budged on that. He still believes, yes, we should waste more time trying to get Mitch McConnell, a guy who says he's not gonna work with us on literally anything. We gotta get his vote, and that's what we should put our time into.
There's a lot in there. One, he's either lying or the dumbest person on the planet, right? And he became a senator. I just don't think that he's the dumbest person on the planet. So there's got to be some other motivation. TYT always says it's how he gets his money and his donors and all of that. A major, is it energy? Is that the problem? Well, a major coal union just said, like, if you guarantee that we can have jobs after this, let's make the move to renewable energy. Like, do it. That's it. You got your roadmap. Now that is gone. That is no longer a consideration. I just don't understand it. It's very, very frustrating to hear that, and we all know better. And his other argument is that we don't need it. He says, well, we need it. The reason we didn't do the bipartisan act, there were no bipartisan votes on or an attempt to do it, and I just let it happen after that, was because we needed coronavirus relief. Well, you needed it electorally because that won you the election. And if you didn't follow through on it, that won you the election and the runoffs in Georgia. If you didn't follow through on it, you would be like 1 + 1 = 2 level, clearly screwed. Everyone would have been like that. Yeah. We asked for it. We ordered a Big Mac and we didn't get a Big Mac, like that kind of stuff.
You promised a Big Mac?
Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing. And then the other, and he's saying we don't need to do that essentially with the infrastructure. So he's saying we don't need it. We don't need new roads. We don't need new bridges. We don't need anything. And so that's another issue. And the other thing is that when you're asked whether we should do the same thing as last time, put you in charge of something that failed last time, his argument is, well, it's never worked. Let's do it again.
Yep.
That is a psychotic proposal for anyone to give in any possible situation. I failed every time I tried this, 700th time's a charm. No, too late. Let's move on.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's sort of in charge. So that's fun. Okay, let me read a couple quick super chats and then we're going to turn to some weird news. Beth Waller says, happy birthday to me, I'm 73, I'm Equus Dragon and I ain't bragging. My avatar of course is 2 of my horses. Apologies, this verse couldn't be worse. Beth Waller, happy birthday.
Really,
I had a lot of fun with that. A little punch drunk says, Pennywise the dragon clown here, that's horrifying. This whole ordeal about the patents is absurd. Why do you think doing the bare minimum seems so uplifting? Because for a long time we haven't even gotten the bare minimum. Next question. Let's see, Arthur says, so is Brett always going to be on Thursdays now or is it just temporary? It's just today. And soon not at all.
Yes, I'll be off for about a month. Sorry.
Unacceptable.
And I have to hand macrame you an entire onesie, so for all of the dragons. So it's gonna take a while.
That's gonna take a while. Mary Hooker Myers says, Brett, you have ruined my life. Stuffed animals is a brain worm, and because I watched the visuals, I have both permanently stuck in my head. Thanks, dude. Oh, is that the music video that you did a few years ago?
That's the one where I make sweet, sweet love to stuffed animals that we then returned to a toy store. I didn't really make love to them, and I didn't touch most of them, and it was pre-COVID. But yes, there were some. We returned all those to toy stores. That's how most of Hollywood works. You buy it, keep the receipt, and do the shoot, send it back.
Granted. Little Punch Drunk says, here in Florida, we have DeSantis pushing and pushing to spread COVID as much as possible. Almost no masks outside of major cities. I saw more masks in Texas last week. Quasita the Q Dragon became a tier 2 member on YouTube. Thank you for that. You get access to the top 10 list. Guy Fleegman did as well. Thank you to both of you. Rena says, TDR always happens during my toddler's nap time. And today she refused to get sleepy until she heard y'all. She's out like a light now, thanks. I think I just got owned.
Interesting.
That's what happened. Are you Leslie Jones? Is Leslie Jones messaging us? Anyway, Gator Dragon says, as a Louisiana resident, I appreciate not being ignored by a Democratic president. Progressives should do a better job at not treating the South like they're throwaway states, especially Louisiana. That's a very good point. Alex Cerisi became a tier 2 member on YouTube. Thank you for that. Over on Twitch, Andy from Ohio gifted a tier 1 sub. Wasabi Dragon did as well. Thank you to both of you. Morning Demon reached 12 months as a Twitch subscriber. Jeez. Says, as a birthday gift to myself, time to celebrate a whole year with Dragon Daddy and Drunkle. Thank you very much for being with us. Okay, let's see. Osborne says, Brett on stream and John mentioning garbage people confused me enough to check if it was Thursday or Friday. I love that we have that grip that we can make you question time itself. Axie says, Jordan wearing a onesie. I can't wait for his awkwardness. I hope that his cat is also in a tiny little onesie. That would be adorable.
Or shaved, so it's the opposite. And shaved
made it
completely
out
wearing a t-shirt like a person. But like leave the hair here.
A Slayer t-shirt. A Slayer t-shirt. That's what
Is that a thing? Has anyone ever done that where you like shave animals so that they have hair all the places people have hair? I hope not in this day and age.
Like they just have like a regular haircut.
Like a haircut and the rest.
I don't want to know.
Someone shared on a tweet, they were like, they did a thing where it's like most animals when they don't have hair are very funny looking, except bears, which look like they're hell demons. And that's very true.
That is true. That is true. Okay, we are going to put, man, we have a lot of stories still left on the rundown. Woo! Okay, here, we're gonna do rapid fire, Brett. We're gonna do rapid fire, Brett. Okay.
I like that you think by repeating my name, like Brett, that itself took longer than just saying my name once. So this is all wasted time, Hootie.
Okay. I know, but it's an investment, okay? It's like when I'm not gonna go through it. Anyway, okay, let's jump into this. Florida is one of many states attempting to strike back against the scourge of people voting in elections. But DeSantis decided to make this horrible effort somehow worse and weirder at the same time. So they were going to have a signing for it. And the vast majority of journalists who were going to cover discovered that that was not going to happen. We have this tweet showing news media barred from entry at the signing of controversial elections bill SB 90. DeSantis spokeswoman Taryn Fenske says the bill signing is a Fox exclusive. I've never heard that about like a non-political, like a policy thing. But it was true, and not just a Fox exclusive. It was also for the Friends. So take a look at this video.
The pandemic. So after the pandemic, Governor, a lot of people loosened up the rules because a lot of people didn't want to come out of the house. There were drop boxes, no excuse, mail-in balloting, and things to that nature. After years of struggling on election day and maybe extending it too long, most famously in 2000, you guys pretty much pulled it off flawlessly last time around, and you were able to get the results in. Now it's time for people to rein in and have a non-pandemic election. In over 30 states, they've made reforms. You're doing the same thing. What's going to be different about Florida's election in 2022? What are you about to sign?
So right now I have what we think is the strongest election integrity measures in the country. I'm actually going to sign it right here. It's going to take effect. So
there you go.
Bill is signed.
So yeah, a Republican governor signed a voter suppression bill live on Fox and Friends. They hate the biased fake news. They thought that MSNBC was too close to Obama, and now they're giving exclusive bill signings to a morning show that Steve Doocy is on. And I understand that Kilmeade is not necessarily a person who is known for his intellectual rigor. He did sort of get fought to a stalemate in a debate with a 6th grader yesterday. But that said, he just said, you guys managed after all these issues to have an awesome election where you had the results instantly. Now it's time to rein it in. But you just described it as going very well and smoothly and quickly. And what does rein it in mean? You didn't identify any problems there. What is the thing that needs to be reined there, Brian Kilmeade? So there's the bill. The bill is obviously a problem. The weird propaganda thing of having it live on Fox and Friends is a problem. Brett, what are your thoughts?
It's all a problem, and especially the best part is where by his own admission, it was never a problem. That's it. They need the lie. They just repeat lies over and over again. They then legislate based on that lie because they've done their homework. Their homework is to create an audience that only goes to them for the truth and doesn't bear to look outside their bubble. And the truth is that Florida already has a history of really, really sketchy voting, but on the right side, the Republicans with the 2000 election and incest up the wazoo. When it comes to who's the elected officials, it was all Bush's. And now you've got a whole group of people behind him insulated in this area where it's hilarious that they're talking specifically about transparency when they could not have a more manicured, insulated, opaque bill signing where they're literally locking the media outside. And only showing this little tiny bit. And this later he goes to Simonson sign where he's like, here are the things that we're fixing. Voter ID, you've got to have voter ID. We can go through and have all the things that make that a BS argument where it's essentially a poll tax. It costs people $200 to get the ID that they have. But by his own admission, that wasn't a problem to begin with.
Yeah. They haven't identified any problems or any fraud. That is the simple fact. But they can do this without explaining it because the only people they have to answer to are conceivably the right-wing media who supports voter suppression even more than they do, and Republican voters who have been trained to believe and trust that this is going to help them. That sure, it'll make voting harder, fundamentally anti-democratic, all of that. But it's mainly gonna hurt the sorts of people we don't want voting anyway, so they're cool with it. So they don't need to make a case. The Republican Party in general has very little that they want to do, and the things that they want to do, they just know their base wants it, so they don't need to explain it. They don't have to come up with some sort of rational explanation as to why they would pursue these things. They can just do it because their base trusts that this is gonna benefit them, or at the very least distract them, like talking about potatoes and Dr. Seuss and all of that. Anyway, the whole thing is just disgusting. The Fox and Friends being a willful part. It's the weirdest thing. They went from having Trump on day after day after day while he was a candidate, then the cushy relationship with him while he was president. Now they're seeming to try to build that same relationship with Ron DeSantis. Do with that information what you will, but the entire thing is just disgusting.
So just to give you an idea, last thing is about Florida. Florida itself. That state is already the result of insane gerrymandering and BS tricks that happen in the state house, basically resulting in a disproportionate representation for Republicans over Democrats. That is the fraud. That's what's frustrating. In a state that went 51 to 48, Trump over Biden, their roll boy, 51 to 48. 65% of the state representatives are Republicans.
Yep.
That seems a little strange to me.
Majorities. Yeah.
Overwhelming majorities, disproportionate to how many people voted for Republicans. Republicans are represented. That's insane. That's the thing that you should be looking into. That's the thing that doesn't make any sense. And when we're crafting this most Americans agree agenda, the one thing that is the clearest is that in every single vote, Republicans end up with more representation, even though fewer people voted for them.
Yeah.
That's a problem that they should look into. Not whether someone has voter ID, not whether they should, stop the voter fraud convictions when they don't have any.
Yeah. Of course, they're not going to do that. And the amazing thing is, to change that, you would have to overcome it, and it's by its very nature incredibly difficult to overcome. Okay, let's roll right into a bit more of the voter fraud. Some of the most notorious figures in the months after the general election last year, pushing for the election to be overturned, spreading the big lie, are back in a sequel. They've got their group, the American Greatness Fund. This is a nonprofit advocacy group aligned with the ex-president, set to unveil the formation of the Election Integrity Alliance. Woo! Got so many good words in it. Which it says will be focused on ending election fraud and strengthening election safeguards by providing information, resources, endorsements of allies' efforts, and solutions to secure free and fair elections. So, if you just found out about the Election Integrity Alliance and you want to know what it's all about, you could look into it. In this case, you can just look at who's on its board, which includes Trump attorney Jenna Ellis, who's most notable for two things: spreading the lie and being to this day completely unable to prove that she didn't get COVID from Rudy Giuliani's flatulence. Then you have Ken Paxton, Texas's attorney general, Bernard Kerik, Peter Navarro is on the group as well. So this is designed to provide sort of an air of legitimacy to a group that's gonna raise money and then give money to basically what's already happening. Efforts like the Florida legislation that was just signed that we talked about, similar legislation in a number of different states. And you call it the Election Integrity Alliance to provide a little bit of a buffer between like media perception of the group and the fact that Jenna Ellis is on it, a person who's laughed out of courtrooms all over the country trying to overturn the election. What do you think, Brett?
They all just find another grift to glom onto. They created these are the job creators, because they create a fake problem to solve and then they hire themselves to solve it. That's it. A launch a voter fraud organization. It's like press releases. If everyone sees a press release is just like, here's a list of quotes about ourselves that we generated that we wanted you to know about. You just copy and paste them and everything. That's what it's for. They are creating those quotes to be in Fox News reports about voter fraud, saying, well, it's a really difficult thing to overcome. Really, in those articles should be the overall proven amount of voter fraud and where it happens and how it happens. No, they just are going to be the experts claiming that it is a real problem and needs real funding to overcome. And that money goes straight into their pockets as they find ways to get more terms for elected representatives who do not represent their voters in the least.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know, how there's a lot of people on the board, but so I don't know what the breakdown is gonna be, but they are gonna get paid for this. It is going to be a no work position. They will stay on this organization until Trump gets reelected or whatever, earning probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, doing basically nothing. I mean, like advocacy groups push politicians to do things that there is a constituency saying they don't do. Republican politicians are only considering two pieces of legislation, basically: efforts to stop people from voting and efforts to stop trans athletes in high schools. Those are the only two things that they're doing. You do not need to form an organization to push either of those two things. That's the agenda. That's the platform right now.
Yep.
Anyway, any other final thoughts?
Nope, I'm with you on that.
Okay, let's push on to the most important news of the day. It's not, but anyway, let's do this. Yesterday, Donald Trump unveiled his new social media mega hub, his blog. And we noted on it, let's bring up a picture of what one of his like faux tweets looks like. So you can see he was tweeting about something or other about New Hampshire or whatever. Not really tweeting, but tweeting on the desk of Donald Trump. And for some reason they cropped it. Anyway, so on the side of that image, there's links where you can share his posts, his fake tweets to Facebook, to Twitter, and you can like it to, like it's not Twitter. The likes don't serve an algorithmic purpose. It is literally just to make Trump feel better. But anyway, you can conceivably share it to Twitter. So we had a debate on the show yesterday. Is that going to fly? Is this the clever workaround that Trump and his team seem to think it is? That he can't be on Twitter. He can't just dictate his tweets to someone else. But if he makes the website, then you can share it and he gets around it. So we had a poll, it was very close. And we don't know 100% for sure. As of right now, I was able to share one of his posts. I didn't end up doing it, but to Twitter. And it doesn't really work the way Trump would want. It basically comes up as a link to an article, basically. That's not what he wants. But they did have another workaround, and that has been stamped down. So someone had tweeted, Lori Buckley had tweeted that DJ Trump, which sounds like something Leslie Jones would call him, is back using the handle at DJT Desk. So it was just putting the text of all of his messages. They responded saying, former President Donald J. Trump is not tweeting. Any post made aside from replies like this one are direct copies from the forum that's composed at his little desk. Posts are made by Save America on behalf of the 45th POTUS, then distributed onto this platform. So that was their attempt to be like, no, hold up. It's not actually him. This is a repost of a public forum, not affiliated with him. It's totally cool. Well, it wasn't totally cool, and it was suspended almost instantaneously. It had accrued about a little bit less than 3,300 followers, and they destroyed it. So that, again, does not mean that they're not gonna come up with some sort of workaround. But as of right now, at least, it looks like Twitter they're onto it. They get this is an attempt to evade his permanent ban, Brett. And so far, it's not working. We'll have to see.
I love it. The official response from Twitter is, are you serious? On Happy Half Hour last night, we watched this video of a guy who goes into like this Canadian thing called Dave's No Frills, which is like a smart and final, and thinks he has this really good plan to get around the thing that says like no masks, no service. He walks in without a mask, grabs 2 bars of Irish Spring worth $3, walks by the cashier and throws $5 down on the belt, makes a scene and leaves. And he's like, I figured it out. I bought something here. And they're like, no, you didn't buy it. You stole it and you left $5. We didn't sell it to you.
You don't
and
choose.
Then he tries to make like a citizen's arrest. He's like, a citizen's arrest on you and a citizen's arrest on you. The police show up and are like, get in the car, idiot. And that's what this is. This is it's not me. It's my friend who takes what I say and puts it on Twitter. This is tweet laundering.
This is tweet laundering. This is the tweet equivalent of putting your finger like near your brother's face and say, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. Yeah, that's not as clever as you think it is when you're 5.
It's typing the tweet. 5. It's like Trump sitting on the toilet, typing his tweet, calling in like, hey, Stephen Miller, come over here. Hit send. And Stephen has to walk into the toilet and be like,
oh, we're gonna return to the toilet. This is Trump scotch taping pencils to his fingers so that I'm not typing the tweets.
So stupid.
Oh God, it's Twitter Wolverine. Okay, so I wanna jump ahead of the last thing though, because I wanna do another zoom in, and I really hope they got this right. Another zoom in on the little desk of Donald Trump. Next to his post, they have this photo of him to like give you an image of him sending the tweets. And it has him writing in a gigantic book. I don't know what that's supposed to be. Like, what is this huge blank book that he's supposedly writing with a pen in? And what does that have to do with him fake tweeting to his blog?
Right. This
is
a
it
blog.
Supposed to be respectable?
It's so crazy.
It's just a blog.
Like, that's not how you do it, buddy. That's not how you tweet. That's not how any of this ends up on the internet, right? From the desk. It's so dumb. And I love it. And this is exactly Trump. He is that guy that thinks that those are notebooks. Like, he has an office, right? And offices have bookshelves, and bookshelves have books on them. And obviously the decorator was like, well, you must have many leather-bound books, but they all have nothing on the pages. So he thinks that's what a blog is you open the books and you write in them. He's like, I'm certainly not gonna have books by other people, and I'll be damned if all the books don't have gold paint on all the sides of the pages. No one has ever written in a book like that, ever.
No, maybe I think the Kingsguarded Game of Thrones, they have that one book that they write in. That's it. No one else is actually writing in those. And so if you're a fan of Trump, like, no, he's doing this
with a Sharpie.
Best case scenario at a desk. Worst case
with a Sharpie, mind you. He only signs with a Sharpie, which is gonna bleed through like 6 pages of that book, buddy.
It's such a waste. It's such a waste. Anyway, okay, here's what's gonna happen. We are about to move into our final segment of the day, but I'm gonna give them a moment to prep for that. And I'm gonna read a few comments before that happens. I did see this comment on Twitch from Kelly June, who says, I am a tier 3 member on YouTube, and for the second month, I have no baby dragon and no cool emojis. Can you ask someone to fix it for me? The moderators on YouTube keep telling me I must not really be a member. You know me better than that, help. So yes, Kelly, I don't doubt that you're a member, but I don't know what's causing it. So my suggestion would be to do sort of the YouTube membership equivalent of turning it off and turning it back on. Maybe if you turn off your membership and then go back into it, that's really annoying to do, but maybe that would do it. I don't know, Brett, have you heard about anything like this?
Nope.
Yeah,
I wish I could help, but I can
wish I could press
the reason I'm not here tomorrow is because we have a meeting with YouTube.
Yeah,
so I can ask.
Yeah, I wish that I could press a button and fix it, but there's no functionality. Like I can't do anything like that for myself, let alone for anyone else. But that would be my suggestion at least. And I'm sorry that you're going through that. It's really annoying. Okay, let's see. Diana Johnson says, AKA Green Granny Dragon, I am packing up my library, making room for the grandkids living with me while listening to you. Come to Brian Jakes, thought of your writing endeavors. Thanks to you all. That is so funny. Brian Jakes is one of the sort of like motivations for the writing that I've been doing recently. Lawrence Wells says it'd be good if there was a rule where legislators are automatically expelled for going against their own constituents too many times. Oh, I don't know, like Weird Fingers Mansion, a fantasy I know. Yeah, like in a purely thinking about it sense, that's interesting. Obviously, that would be very, very difficult to adjudicate, but I get what you're saying. Yarmul says, really appreciate all your political analysis. Thank you, I appreciate that. Tara Chapman says, so gross. DeSantis and his clowns sure are proud of themselves. 100%. Nobody's more proud than a mediocre guy like him. Jonathan Feliciano, thank you for becoming a tier 1 YouTube member. Hopefully you actually have access to the stuff. It seems like most people satisfied. Sorry, Kelly June. D Bluz guy says, our new license plate slogan, Florida, the disenfranchised state. Yeah, that could sell a lot. Tara Chapman also says Trump's Bible. It looked like it was right side up though. So I was a bit confused by that. Okay, over at Twitch, Mathaden subscribed for 4 months and just got the first dose in Canada. Thank you for getting that, appreciate that. LPW hit 2 months, says, yay, much love to good thinking lefties. We try, for the most part. Moo Dragon's Nightmare subscribed for 4 months. Farts Noise, who is an intermediary of sorts between Rudy Giuliani and Jenna Ellis, subscribe with Prime. Thank you, Farts Noise, appreciate that. And let's see, Keyjohn, I did see the photo that you sent of the baby dragon on Twitter. Thank you for that. But that said, time is a wasting. We have 12 minutes until our hard out, so let's jump into this. And now it's time for news from around the world. And meanwhile, in Colombia, there is chaos and death, unfortunately, and predictably as a result of an effort by the government to put the sort of regressive taxes on the population that have led to similar sorts of protests in other countries in the region in the past few years. Tragically, as of right now, and this is obviously developing quickly, at least 24 people have died in the protests, hundreds more have been injured. And so I want to give you some details about what led to the protests, and a lot has developed from the initial cause of them. So although the president said that the objective of the reforms aimed at raising the equivalent of 1.4% of GDP or $4.1 billion, were to stabilize the country's economy. The plan has been criticized for favoring the wealthy and placing more strain on the working and middle classes. So it is a suite of many different changes to taxation, reforms. It is in a variety of forms, both regressive. It is sort of a form of shifting of the tax burden in a way that is a sort of backdoor to austerity politics. And the population has seen through it. They've seen through the fact that they're trying to push it through during the pandemic so that if the people go in the streets, they can claim that this is unsafe for public health purposes. That is what they are doing right now. They're complaining about the fact that there's as many cases and deaths as there are, saying, how can you be protesting? Well, because the people of Colombia actually care about their future and they're not gonna let them slip important legislation through basically while being silent. Now, over the past few days, they have scrapped the bill and they're saying that they're going to be coming up with some other form of it, but the protests have already begun at that point. The people are already fired up and the opposition to these reforms has now sort of grown into opposition to a number of other issues, including you can see the lack of efforts to fight poverty, police brutality, and there has been an incredible amount of police violence towards protesters in multiple cities that thankfully international human rights monitors are making a big deal out of. And this is important. As we always try to remind you, there's a lot going on in a lot of countries, but we need to put pressure on these countries to treat their people correctly, especially in this sort of case where they're going to point towards police officers that have been injured as a justification for the violence. Anyway, it's a complex and rapidly evolving situation, but Brett, what do you think about it?
Right, they tried this horrible thing. People said that that's horrible. Canceling it won't make people be like, all right, cool, we're cool now. We're all mellow, don't worry about it. Like when you tried that horrible thing, you stopped, you apologized, you didn't even apologize, but like that's it. We're back to it. Yeah, this is.
Well, it's actually the exact opposite of some sort of apology or acknowledgement that the way they had formulated it was fundamentally wrong and the population wouldn't accept it. The president said the reform is not a whim, the reform is a must. And so they're saying we're going to work on another formulation of this. Now, there's some in-depth analysis of the political calculations of what percentage of the legislature his party actually controls, which calls into question whether they would actually be able to push through some new version of this. But that said, they definitely are trying to. And so there's a variety of ways that governments will respond to mass protests in the streets. So demonizing them, that's one way, which they've been doing, trying to assert that they are being irresponsible because of the pandemic. They're doing that. They're calling them terrorists and vandals. We've seen that here in the US as well. Another way is to try to wait them out. We saw an attempt at this in India over the last year, which is you have this popular protest, you say, oh no, we're gonna back off, hoping that it will die down and that when you put it out again, it won't spring up in the same way, that you can sort of wear people down. And it is possible that in the medium or long term that will be possible. But right now, the protesters are thankfully, they seem to be aware of that strategy and they're not just going home right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good. Stay there, fight for what you believe in. It's also difficult in America, and given the legacy of American interventionism in South America, like United States intervention in South America, it's tough to really tell what a protest, like who's being motivated by the American government and whether a protest is genuine. But this one, just because of who's protesting, it's pretty easy to assume that this is a genuine protest.
Exactly. And I know that Anna Kasparian is expecting to talk about this on the main show, so there'll be more details there and perhaps footage. But for now, that is the situation. Fingers crossed that the civilian death toll doesn't rise, but it seems likely at this point that is probably going to happen. But meanwhile, in Japan, or at least bearing on what's going to happen in Japan, the Tokyo Olympics committee has decided that athletes will not be allowed to wear Black Lives Matter apparel at the games later this summer. Officials have confirmed that that's part of a ban on protests and political messages, with the IOC 2 weeks ago revealing that any sort of like demonstrations that would be done during the official ceremonies at the podium, sort of drawing attention to social or political causes was going to be banned. But now just having the slogans or the letters or imagery on your apparel will be banned as well. Not everywhere. They do say that you'll be able to do the slogans at places like press conferences, during interviews, and at team meetings. But if the messaging comes during official ceremonies, athletes could be subject to punishment. So they say, by the way, Brett, that a majority of the athletes were in favor of strict rules against demonstrations. That might even be true, but that doesn't mean that it's right. And I don't know if these athletes feel like this is their opportunity to draw attention to a cause. I'm not sure the threat of some sort of consequences is going to be enough to stop them. It might actually motivate some of them to do it.
Right, this is a stupid move. Just let it happen. Just let it happen. Like, I don't know why you would take a position either way in this, politically speaking, from the organizer's perspective. Just say, listen, we're but like if we're looking for the IOC to behave reputably, no, they're not gonna do that. The entire process by which they select what city hosts, when they host, how they host, is utterly corrupt and provably so. And it's about, and that includes like who gives the most money. And I know we got an LA Olympics coming up, and that's exactly plays into it. All the same caveats apply. So this is pretty on brand for the IOC, siding with massive moneyed interests against people trying to make a statement. Also, some of the most iconic Black Lives Matter analogous statements were made at the Olympics. 100%. And they're those moments, by the way, are gonna run in ads during the Olympics. I know there's a Visa commercial with the fist up in the air. That is something that is proudly touted as a result of the Olympics. Not to mention, like entire nations have made a statement. The Olympics have been boycotted throughout history for political reasons, based on the treatment of people within those countries by the governments of those countries. So I just don't, I personally want to know who was the person in there making this a thing. I just don't get it.
I don't know. I mean, it just seems like it seems wrong, but I think more importantly, it seems incredibly counterproductive. Like this is not going to result, I don't think, in what they want. I don't know what the state of the Olympics are going to be. I don't know what they're going to look like. It's obviously going to be very different than other Olympics. So maybe things will be able to be so carefully controlled because it won't be a typical Olympics. But that said, it's going to happen. And then if they come down with like the hammer of Thor on one of these athletes, they're going to look even worse. Like they look bad now, but it's going to be way worse once they actually do something about it. There's still time to backtrack, and I would advise that they should do that.
It is so stupid. It is so dumb. Like, I want to know who made that decision. I just don't get it. And the other thing is, there are massive like political statements being made by the athletes by American athletes every single ceremony when they walk around in the official opening ceremonies, is that America is Ralph Lauren's country of choice. Like the size of the polo player on people's shirts are like, no, we endorse product placement as a nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and popped collars for all.
Well, I already can't wait for the opening ceremonies, and I can't wait for the 2028 Olympics when Brett, and I'm definitely gonna drag Brett, he may not know it, to some women's gymnastics. It's gonna be awesome. Anyway, Brett, thank you, because it's the best.
Creepiest thing you've ever said.
The whole sports are creepy. It's awesome. It's like the most. Anyway, we'll debate it for the next 7 years or so, and then it's gonna happen. So just prepare yourself. That said, Brett, as always, thank you for joining us. I'm sad that you're not gonna be here for Garbage People, but that's the way it is.
That's fine. Sorry.
Okay, well,
I was reading.
Okay, then get out of here,
guys. They're fixing the Colombia spelling.
Wait, what happened?
And by that,
spelling.
No one knows. So the Anglicanized spelling of Colombia is with a U, but the original spelling of Colombia by the people who live there is an O. So Colombia versus Colombia. And that said, you should call Japan Nihon. But I'm fine with it. Because
I agree. I've always felt that we should call countries what they want to be called. It's weird that we tell them what they're going to be called. But anyway, Brett, thank you.
Germany's out of nowhere. Like it's Deutschland. That's a weird one.
100%. Okay, we have a time limit. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Cut his mic. I'm pulling to Tucker Carlson. Anyway, thank you everybody. We're about to be cut off, but I want to thank you for watching the show. Please go vote in the poll on our community tab of our YouTube channel for Garbage People, which is gonna be happening with Yasmin Ali Khan tomorrow. So don't miss it. But until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.